Welcome back to Gear for the Common Game. Today, once again, we're going to talk about Alena and Halana. The video file this is the second time I have filmed this, so the previous video file was corrupted somehow. Anyway, I've got experience. So Halana here is I need a partner and I needed green. So another creature enters the battlefield. You may pay 2. That creature deals damage to, whatever. The part on this that I have played this deck, the part on this that has actually become useful in play is that reach word. So that saved me from taking some freebie hit damage early in the game. But our real commander, as it were, is Alena, because this is what I built around. So for 5 mana, we get a 4/3 first strike, which is not bad. But she taps to add an amount of mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that entered the battlefield this turn. So you've got to, number 1, have a lot of creatures, and number 2, have a big power. So ideally you want to play 1 really big power creature per turn and then have something to do with the mana afterwards. So now the very first card I thought of was putting an Instill Energy on her to untap and add even more mana. Of course, Alliances has another version of it that's pretty close. Same thing. Of course, Seeker of Skybreak untaps a creature, as does the Puppet String. So that way we get max red mana out of our commander. Now, I did choose Horn Kavu. If we want to recast one of those big ones on a later turn, and then Sparkcaster. Looking back, I probably should have done the green creature 5/4 trample, not Stampeding Wildebeest, because that creature has to be green. Although more than half our creatures are green. Stampeding Wildebeest, Stampeding Cerro, and there's a third one. You see the idea, so that you're constantly bouncing a creature back, and you get more ETBs and trigger our commander. So here's our ETBs. Manglehorn, this one's really good. Not only does it pop an artifact, but it makes all the artifacts come into play tapped. Nothing upsets your opponents more than your Soul Ring comes into play tapped. Burning Tree Emissary for a little mana. Acidic Slime. Civic Wayfinder. Farhaven Elf, and the Rex Sage, because Rex Sage is really good. Flametongue Kavu, popping some creatures. Sandstone Oracle. Drawing some cards. And then, of course, Terastodon. Now, with all these creatures coming into play, it only makes sense that we have stuff like Garrick's Pack Leader and Hamlet Back Goliath. Hamlet Back Goliath, I know 7 mana looks like a whole lot, but we play a multiplayer game where people play a lot of creatures. This thing does work. We have ways to improve it. Yes, it is just a large dude, but we have ways. Anyway, I got off track. We've got to cast these big creatures, so let's look at our mana acceleration, shall we? We have the trio of elves, the Elvish Mystic, Alena Werewolf, and Findhorn. Some artifacts in Soul Ring, Gruul Keyrune, Signet, Cluestone, Locket, and of course the Talisman. And then some spells, Rapid Growth, Farseek, and Explosive Vegetation. Because we're wanting to play big creatures, right? And we've got to have the mana to play them. We've also got to draw some cards, Harmonize, Double Meat, Double Cheese, playing creatures. So the Beast Whisperer, I love the subtle difference in Beast Whisperer, cast a creature, draw a card, and then Soul the Harvest. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So you can trigger both. And then Keeper of Fables, deals combat damage to draw a card. So let's look at these creatures, shall we? The first one I want to highlight here is Force of Savagery. No, there's no I mean, beyond the Rhythm of the Wild that's in the deck to give it riot, there's no other way to keep it alive, right? This is a ritual. For 2 and a green, you're going to end up getting 8 red out of your commander. So, I kind of like it. The Beanstalk Giant, that can be a whole... I mean, that's a double up, right? Because you cast the Beanstalk Giant, and you get a red mana pretty much for each land you control. Shavnar Owl. I chose this just because it is 4 to cast, and you get 6 out of it. So it's, Seething Song-ish type card. To make us of the order, just to go search for that card that you need. Anara. You commanders have an indestructible is not a bad thing. Leyline Tyrant. Wow, you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases in. Now, you will still lose it at the end of the turn. But if it dies, you can just funnel it all straight through. There's our Brawn to give everything trample. Ambush Viper is our, I like to call the Green Doomblade because it has flash and you're going to play it in the middle of combat. And just... Tuva Bearclaw. It's going to get real big if we're focusing on high power creatures, right? Aggressive Mammoth also passes out trample. And this is not bad either. I mean, for a giveaway card, it's 6 mana, 8/8 trample, and then trample for your team. I know I'm nostalgic. There's a lot better cards than Force of Nature, I know. But this card, specifically this art of this card, I love. And, it's an 8/8 monkey. What's not to love, right? Omnath of Locust Rage it's kind of a good fit simply because, it's a 7 mana 5/5, but in later turns, a land drop is going to get you 5 mana, right? If you don't have any... if you have no cards in hand and you draw a land and you play a land, you get this 5/5 elemental. Hey, you're going to be able to tap her for 5 mana. Using some of the more common Eldrazi here, Ulamog's Crusher and Hand of Emrakul. If you've got the Titans, by all means, run them. But then, you know what? We've got a ton of red mana. So, the fire-breathing creatures, like Storm Shaman. Yeah, it's just a ground pounder, but, we probably should have trample. There's as many ways as we've got to give it, but you can pour a whole lot of red mana through it. And gotta have a good old-fashioned Shivan Dragon. Hellkite Igniter. I'm sure y'all noticed there was quite a bit of mana rocks. It's not uncommon to have 3 or 4 of those, right? So, this right here is probably enough. Just the Hellkite Igniter. I should probably swap out 2 of the basic lands with the artifact lands just for this sake. But we'll do it in the refit, right? Whatever that is. The Warmonger Hellkite. By far my favorite red mana dump. Yes, it makes all creatures attack. Everybody's. But... that works on a lot of creatures. We would all love to see that Grand Arbiter Augustine swing. But 2 mana to pump your team attacking creatures. Now, also keep in mind, it does not say you're attacking creatures. If an opponent is swinging at another opponent, you can make those creatures huge. Mordant Dragon. Expensive fire breathing, but it also hits a creature, I do have some oddball stuff. I've mentioned the Rhythm of the Wild, Riot. Your creatures can't be countered, so that's nice. The Girl War Chant, they all get +1 in Menace. Now, I like a good old fog as much as anybody else, but Undergrowth here is a fog, or for 4 mana, it fogs everything but red creatures, which is kind of nice. Now, I did want a a dump for the red mana, and there are a lot of good rocket launchers, a good dump, but what I decided on was, of course, Fireball and Blaze, because that was what I had at the time. Then our removal, Hull Breach. Sensei says we must have Hull Breach if we play red-green. So, Return to Nature and a Braid, and then a Thrashing Brontodon, because, you know, it's a creature. It might be our only draw that turn, so. And then our non-basic lands. I probably should have put the Bonder's Enclave with the card draw. But, because we're going to control a creature with power 4 or greater, you know. Gruul Turf, Guildgate, Timber Gorge, Rugged Highland, of course the Command Tower, and the Rogue's Passage. Got to have it, Rogue's Passage, with huge creatures, you know. Evolving Wilds, and a Terramorphic Expanse. Not bad for my second attempt at this. Maybe this file will stay good enough to get uploaded. Anyway, stuff like that does happen a lot. I know we as viewers don't normally hear about it a lot, but I'm sure it happens to everybody who records. Anyway, 848 is going to go onto the wall. FYI, I'll be wearing the same thing tomorrow, because tomorrow was yesterday. Or it is, I don't know. Time is weird on YouTube. Anyway, I do appreciate y'all watching. Thank you so much. But right now, we're going to go ahead and shuffle and cut.